It's finally revealed to our boy that there's a way bigger play on the table. As long as a divine-level formation master forges a soul fusion formation, and Lin serves as the center, every soul eater killed inside the formation would have all of its energy funneled straight into Lin alone, turning into pure nourishment. Antares note that this kind of amplification on the soul is something even primordial runes can't pull off. Pointing things out clearly, he remarks that, in short, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Furthermore, he doesn't forget to tell Lin that he's only sharing all this out of goodwill, purely because he respected our boy. While digesting everything, Lin reflects that if Antares is willing to spill this much, the guy almost certainly knows how to set up the soul fusion formation himself. Whether Antares actually plans to teach it or not doesn't even matter at this point. The problem, as Antares noted, was that he needed a divine-level formation master. That's when our boy casually comments that one of his teachers happens to be one of them. Meanwhile, Antares tilts his head back, scratches his chin, and asks himself why something this valuable should be handed over for free. After all, this is a path that could lead straight to becoming a supreme divine. He reasons that Lin should obviously pay a price, such as agreeing to complete 3 favors for him. Now our boy finally gets it. Antares was playing this angle all along. That being said, the soul fusion formation itself is probably legit. Antares then adds that there's actually another way to deal with soul eaters, which is by using a soul fusion potion. Once consumed, it exterminates the creature lodged in the soul, and its power instead turns into a massive boost for the host. He even asks whether Lin wants to think about it, mentioning that he could also pass along the potion's formula. Anyway, Lin just shrugs it off and tells him to forget it. Antares is instantly stunned, staring at Lin in disbelief and asking what that's supposed to mean. Lin scratches his head and explains that he simply can't afford it, so there's no choice but to give up. As for the potion, he notes that ancient records already mention it, meaning they can probably brew it themselves. Either way, Lin still feels it's only right to thank him for explaining everything. After bowing in gratitude, Lin turns and prepares to leave, but Antares can't sit still anymore. He hurriedly stops him and asks whether he really doesn't want to become a supreme divine. The answer is obvious. Of course Lin wants to, but he just comments that the price is too high and way beyond what he can pay. Antares refuses to give up, reasoning that 3 favors shouldn't be that hard. But our boy calmly counters that one wrong move could cost him his life, and if he's dead, the thought of becoming a supreme divine is practically useless. Antares then raises 2 fingers and proposes cutting it down to 2 deals. Lin still shakes his head, remarking that the tasks are too dangerous, and reminds him that he nearly died last time in Thunder Burial Canyon. At this point, Antares starts to panic. He urges Lin to reconsider, saying that 2 is already his absolute bottom line. That's when Lin realizes Antares is hooked. He reflects that the guy is clearly nervous, which means he can still bargain a little. By this point, Lin neither agrees nor refuses, staying completely silent. In the end, Antares is the one who cracks. This time, he lowers it to a single favor, looking visibly irritated. He doesn't even give Lin room to refuse, directly stating that after Lin completes his 3rd-class transfer, he must head to the Dragon King Palace and retrieve another dragon pearl for him. In exchange, Antares will hand over both the potion formula and the soul fusion formation method. Our boy finally turns around, a faint smirk forming as he lifts his hand and tells him it's a deal. With that all out of the way, Lin actually leaves this time, leaving Antares behind, stomping in place, and fuming to himself. He keeps thinking about how ridiculously sharp that kid is, replaying the whole exchange in his head, and wondering exactly where he gave himself away. Even so, Antares doesn't feel like he ended up losing out. After all, that formation itself was always meant to end up in Lin's hands anyway, even if Lin didn't agree. Though he admitted that he just never expected the Soul Eater to show up this soon. Looking up at the sky, he remarks that this world is finally about to give birth to a supreme divine, and that his own freedom is drawing closer as well. Meanwhile, Lin returns to the small courtyard. Meng Anwen asks if everything went smoothly, and Lin tells him that it did before casually placing 2 items on the table. One is the potion's brewing method, and the other is the setup for the soul fusion formation. The moment the formation is mentioned, Meng Anwen's interest is instantly piqued. He pulls the scroll from its container, and strange characters along with surging energy spill out. One look is enough to tell him this formation is anything but ordinary. He studies it carefully, and when Lin asks whether it can be set up, Meng Anwen notes that he's confident, but he'll need time to properly look into it a bit more. Furthermore, if he is reading this right, he believes the formation seems to be designed for only one person. That's when our boy finally spills the beans and reveals that, according to Antares, this formation could lay the foundation for him to become a supreme divine. At the mention of that, old Meng's expression changes completely. He tells Lin to carefully recount every detail of their conversation. After listening for a while, Meng Anwen takes a deep breath and comments that it's absolutely true that no matter how many divine-level professionals there are, they still can't compare to a single supreme divine. This further convinces him that Antares desperately wants Lin to reach that level. He even reasons that perhaps even if Lin had refused to do what he asked, Antares would have forced the formation on him sooner or later. Lin freezes for a moment, then mutters that if he'd known that, he wouldn't have agreed to the trade so easily. Meng Anwen chuckles at that, telling him he's already clever enough, and that Antares is probably sulking somewhere right now. Anyway, since this formation benefits Lin so much, Meng Anwen declares that he'll go all out to help him. As for the potion, he notes that it'll have to be handed over to Old Shu. Reflecting on the implications, Meng Anwen adds that once this potion becomes available, the Empire might enter an era of prodigies. Even so, for professionals, character matters more than talent, so the people allowed to use it must be chosen carefully. He then asks Lin what he plans to do next. Lin says he wants to find a place to keep grinding levels. Meng Anwen thinks that's a solid plan, and mentions that White Divine is currently over at the Kunlun Palace hunting Soul Eaters, adding that Lin's heading there would be safe. He tells Lin not to worry about matters on this end, since they'll coordinate everything with the royal family. In the next scene, the Imperial Palace is packed with high-ranking officials. The Emperor solemnly emphasizes that this concerns the future of the human race and tells everyone to follow the plan without deviation. While preparations against the Soul Eater move forward in secret at full speed, news also reaches the abyss. In front of the Demon Emperor, we see Succubus kneeling and reporting that it is true that Meng Anwen appears to be leading some kind of operation on the human side. The pressure released by the Demon Emperor is so overwhelming that she can barely lift her head. She hurriedly explains that recent intelligence suggests Meng Anwen is setting up an enormous formation, one that nearly covers the entire empire. However, since most of her demon worshippers were almost completely wiped out, they've been unable to gather more details. The Demon Emperor comments that Meng Anwen is the only dual divine-level alchemist and formation master among humans, holds an extremely high status, and even controls nearly half of the military's power. Someone like that scheming in secret can only mean they are planning something huge. After a brief moment of thought, he hands the succubus a crystal sphere and tells her to get as close to the formation as possible and activate it. This task, he stresses, must be carried out personally. She freezes for a split second, then quickly answers that she understands. When the palace is finally empty, the Demon Emperor is left alone, muttering to himself and questioning what on earth the human race and what exactly Emperor Dai is really plotting this time. Look like the story's lining up yet another new character. Anyways, the scene then cuts to the succubus palace. Turns out, she wasn't the one who reported on what happened on the human side to the Demon Emperor, and was suddenly called over, and now she's confused about how the Emperor found out in the first place. The thought that someone might have snitched to him behind her back seriously irritates her, and she notes that if she ever figures out who leaked the information, that person is definitely not walking away intact. That being said, the Demon Emperor has already ordered her to personally head to the human territory. Of course, human divine levels aren't just decoration, and she has zero interest in dying over there, so after a bit of consideration, she decides to send her clone instead. Meanwhile, someone arrives at her palace. It turns out to be the Dark Sky Demon Lord. She asks what he's doing here, and he explains that he's trying to gather some information about Lin. She smiles and casually agrees to help, mentioning that she just received orders from the Demon Emperor to make a trip to the human side anyway. Internally, though, she reflects that a perfect scapegoat just walked through the door. Hearing this, Dark Sky pulls out a top-grade abyssal stone as payment for letting his clone tag along. She takes it without hesitation and looks more than satisfied. The next scene shifts to a lonely island. A group of people is gathered around a formation, chanting non-stop. A closer look makes it obvious. They're members of the demon worshippers. They're using the formation to summon demon lords, sacrificing their own bodies and lives to force open a teleportation portal. Moments later, both the Succubus Queen and the Dark Sky step out. Almost instantly, Dark Sky locks onto his target and Succubus waves at him, even reminding him to be careful. He doesn't waste any words, simply expressing his thanks before charging off. In her eyes, though, this is nothing more than a suicide run. But again, that's not her problem. The very next moment, she turns and flies off in the opposite direction. Not long after, she arrives in a city. According to the intel, Meng Anwen passed through here a few days ago before leaving. She reasons that this place should be the safest option. From far away, she can already see the massive formation, along with numerous guards stationed around it. She senses the energy within, and notes that the array itself is so profound that she can't even guess what Meng Anwen is trying to accomplish. She quietly slips into the city. There's no time to overthink things now. She takes out the crystal sphere, and her only task is to complete the Demon Emperor's order. Once activated, the crystal sphere dissolves into energy and slowly seeps into the formation. Just like that, the mission is done. But she felt it was almost too easy. Then suddenly, streaks of red light ignite around her. She immediately senses danger and curses under her breath, realizing things were never going to be that simple. But before she could even do anything, her body was completely restrained. When she looked up, she saw the divine tower had already materialized above her head. Everything clicks at once. Meng Anwen has been waiting here all along. As it turns out, Old Meng had already predicted that the abyss wouldn't stay quiet, so he installed warning systems into every major formation. He only expected to catch a few small fry, but instead, a demon lord took the bait. She quickly explains that she was just curious and came to see why they were making such a huge fuss. Meng Anwen calmly tells her that now that she's seen enough, she can die. He activates the divine tower, and an overwhelming force crashes down onto her clone. She notes that he must be insane, asking whether he's not afraid she'll self-destruct this clone and drag the entire city down with her. Meng Anwen simply remarks that's not gonna happen. The next second, her body is forcibly dragged into the sky. A beam of red light shoots straight at her, and her form begins to corrode instantly. She struggles desperately to break free, but a clone is still just a clone. Just as she's convinced her clone is about to perish here, the black mist that had previously merged into the formation suddenly gathers and wraps around her clone. Meng Anwen's expression changes on the spot as a massive silhouette slowly emerges before him.